Hi Sagar, welcome to the interview.
Hi, Saurabh. Good evening. Thanks for
Yep.
inviting.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this video will be recorded. It might be posted on YouTube. So why don't we start with your career profile and what you have done so far?
I have total 8 years of experience. In that, I have relevant DevOps experience, 3+ years of experience in the DevOps engineer. So I started my career in the non-IT background, and I have switched my career in as a manual tester after 2 years. I have 2+ years of experience as a manual tester, and in the same, I got an opportunity in the same organization so that to shift as a DevOps engineer. So from there, I started my career as a DevOps engineer. That's almost 3 years, 3+ years I have an experience. Yeah.
Okay. So you started your career as a manual tester, you said, and then from the past
Hmm.
3 years you have been doing DevOps.
Yeah, correct.
All right. So can you share some of your key responsibilities that you have done as a part of DevOps?
We are I'm using source code management as a GitHub, and the Jenkins is used as a CI/CD tool. And I am working on this Java-based project as a Maven as a build tool we used. And Sonar Cube is used for static code analysis, and for the Nexus we use for storing the artifact. And for containerizing our application, we use a Docker as a containerization tool. And for orchestration and deployment, we are using Kubernetes as uh, uh, the deployment tool. And I'm using I used Ansible as an configuration management tool, and Terraform as infrastructure as a code. This is a brief explanation about that.
Okay. Now, in terms of tell me about your day-to-day responsibilities as DevOps engineer.
Day-to-day responsibility, yeah, definitely. Daily, I need to check an email before we are working on a pod management. So based on the pod, if there's working any issues in the pod, and I'll get an email. So every day, the task is going to check in emails, clearing the emails, and yeah, based on we are using Jira as an project management tool, where the work is allocated to the tickets, so that I need to check any tickets is allocated on behalf of that. And in the tickets, like mainly we used to get a work like admin related task and any deployment related task. So based on that, we have to work on that. And yeah, based on the tickets and all, we'll work.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Coming down to the technicalities, you said that you worked in Kubernetes.
Yeah, correct.
All right. Can you tell me more about Kubernetes namespaces and how they can facilitate multi-tenancy and resource isolations?
Yeah, Kubernetes, in Kubernetes, the namespace is mainly used to isolate the Kubernetes from multiple users and multiple different teams. So, it is mainly used to isolate the single Kubernetes for multiple users and teams. Yeah.
Okay. Any more benefits that namespaces provide?
It will provide like a security for our Kubernetes cluster. Based on that, any other user cannot access to our Kubernetes cluster. That is one advantage of namespace.
Okay. All right. Now, in terms of, can you explain me the Kubernetes architecture?
Yeah, sure. The Kubernetes architecture contains master node and the worker node. In master node, there will be like API server, etcd, scheduler, and control manager will be there. And in worker node, there will be like kubelet, kubeproxy, and container runtime will be there. So in API server, the API server is the front end for the master node, where it will expose all the APIs of Kubernetes to the master node. And API server it is primarily act as a communication between the master node and the worker node. And next, coming to the scheduler by name itself, it is the scheduler. It schedule the work for the worker nodes of the worker nodes. Schedule the work to the worker nodes. Yeah, based on the input given by the input taken from the API server, it is allocates the work to the worker node as a deployment of pods and all it will be taken care. And
All right.
DDCD will be like a database kind of a Kubernetes. It will store all the information about the Kubernetes in the form of a key value pair, and it will be maintain the state of the Kubernetes. And control manager, it will be like combining all the processes which are running on the Kubernetes, and it will be managing and informing to the master node. So mainly we have many controllers in Kubernetes, like replica set controllers, ingress controller, node controller, etc. And in worker, coming to worker node, kubelet is like it is also primary node of worker node. It will be run in every worker node. It will be run in every worker node. It is the main work of a kubelet is to check the health of the pods and to maintain the pod is up and running. If it is not, like, it will check the health of the pods, and it will give the information to the ATS server.
Okay.
And queue proxy is mainly used to provide the network between the pods and inside the pods for the communication purpose, and where it is transfer the network into the pods. It is mainly used direct the traffic to the pods.
Okay.
Container runtime is mainly used to run the container as if mentioned.
Can you tell me about any sort of challenges that you encountered while installing Kubernetes cluster or configuration of the networking?
It will be like the pod will be goes down when there is the pod is getting restarted. We used to check the pod logs and all to check what exactly the reason is happened, and we have to go to the logs and we need to check in the describe pods and all, because it is going down, why it is restarting and all the things it will happening in our
Yeah.
cluster.
And where are you sending the logs to? Where are the logs stored?
Yeah, we are saving logs in our backend logging directory.
Mm-hmm. So if you need to send your Kubernetes logs to an external tool like Splunk,
Mhm.
how would you do
Mhm.
that in AWS?
In AWS.
Have you used AWS?
Yeah, I will do that. I will
Yeah.
do this.
So if let's say you're using EKS
Mhm.
and you have a set of logs which are generated by Kubernetes, tell
Mhm.
me how would you get these logs into Splunk?
Yeah, for these logs, we use a sidecar container. Mainly, it will collect the logs from the main application containers. The logs is collected and transfer that into our backend store. So like that we used.
Okay. Are you storing these logs in CloudWatch?
CloudWatch.
Yep.
Yeah, I used to monitor the CloudWatch. Yes.
Okay. So if you need to send these logs from CloudWatch to let's say Splunk, what are the different methodologies in which you can use AWS to export these logs?
Technology and export the log. No, I never used it's kind
Okay,
of.
all right. Did you encounter any sort of persistent storage issues when using Kubernetes?
Yeah, persistent storage, right? Yeah. Persistent storage, like persistent volume, we used for our stateful set applications. So whenever there will be we created, the admin teams created the persistent volume. There we are mentioning to climb the volume, it depends on the size and the accessibility. So we have very like only one pod, only one volume in the where it is created. So on that time, it is already occupied. So that time we faced an issue. So it is in pending state. It is not. It is in running. So we used to overcome this. We used a storage class. So that
Okay,
we used.
all right. So let's assume that I've got a extremely critical application which I'm running on Kubernetes, and
Mhm.
security is paramount to me.
Mhm.
So what are the measures that I will take to ensure that my Kubernetes is highly secure?
Yeah, coming to the secure purpose, we can use the namespace, and we can use RBAC, like role-based access control, and we can these two measures can remember, I think.
But that doesn't really solve the problem of security. So there are multiple other things that you can apply.
Yeah, you
Can you
can
think
use
of other
secrets,
things that you
any
can apply?
credentials. Secrets can use to mention in like 64 case, we need to convert the secrets and can implement that also.
Okay. Would you be able to apply anything on the network?
The network from the VPC part.
Controlling the inbound and outbound traffic
Yeah, we
at the
can
pod level.
yeah, NACLs and security groups that can be used for this.
Okay. Tell me something about pod security policies.
Or security policies.
That's all.
Policy.
Okay, let's move on to something else. Tell me about what do you understand? What do you understand by Jenkins? Why was there a need of Jenkins? And what's the difference between Jenkins and let's say GitHub Actions or Circle CI, the newer set of tools?
Mhm. Yeah, Jenkins is a automation tool which is used to build and deployment, which is used to automate the build and deployment process. So Jenkins, we can use Jenkins as a CI/CD, like continuous integration and continuous deployment. We can use Jenkins to other than Jenkins, GitLab and Circle CI, said, no, I never come across to. I didn't get any chance to work on that, so I don't have that much idea. But they're also in the market now and boom. But I used to work in Jenkins only. That's why, like, it is mainly for CI/CD, implementing
Okay.
CI/CD and
Tell
automation.
me about the Jenkins architecture and the different plugins that you have used.
Yeah, Jenkins, plugins, I use GitHub plugins, Maven integration plugins, Sonar Cubes, Quality Gate plugins, and Nexus Artifactory plugins, and many more plugins I used.
Okay.
Yeah,
And how do you achieve role-based access control in Jenkins?
role-based access control. The role-based access control is for Kubernetes.
No, it can be applied to Jenkins.
Okay.
What, what do you understand by role-based access control?
And it's giving the access to the role based on the user access control, to give the access to the user based on their roles. Like
Mm-hmm.
how can they earn access or
Yeah.
what kind of roles given to the freshers and all.
Yeah. And why do you think that role-based access control cannot be applied to anything other than Kubernetes?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, access control in the sense we can use the access like the same IAM rules is used here. IAM user and group roles we can use to access control to our Jenkins.
All
Yeah.
right, that is incorrect.
Mhm.
Uh, tell me tell me about authentication and authorization. What do you understand by these two words?
Yeah, authentication in the sense a credential is allocated to a user. Authorization is like policies whichever access is given to the user to access AWS services like this kind of access
Mm-hmm.
will be like authorization.
Okay. And what do you understand by identity federation?
Identity federation.
Have you heard of this term?
Oh.
Single sign-ons?
Yeah, single sign-on I heard. Yeah, single sign-on I
Okay.
heard. Yeah,
You,
based same credential and password we can use for multiple different tools, whichever you use it inside the
okay.
organization for that we use single sign.
Okay. Tell me the difference between SAML and OIDC.
Not
Do you know what is SAML
sure.
and OIDC? Okay. All right. So, okay. Now tell me about infrastructure as code. So have you used any tools like Terraform or
Yeah,
CloudFormation?
Terraform I used also.
Okay. Can you describe me the different components of Terraform and what have you done in that?
Terraform, like initially we'll initialize the Terraform by using the command called Terraform init. And next command we use to like check the plan how it is going to manage our Terraform. The plan, Terraform plan command we use. And whenever we have to apply the Terraform for the this thing, we have to execute the Terraform in our cloud base. We use the command like the Terraform apply. And once it has done everything, the state file is created and all the infrastructure is created. When you want to do anything, it will destroy the Terraform. You can mention the Terraform that's deployed service.
Okay. So in Terraform, you have a concept of Terraform state,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
So how do you address challenges like state drift and concurrency?
Mhm.
Do you
Yeah,
understand the
here,
difference between state drift and concurrency in Terraform deployments?
state drift. Like in the sense, like multiple users are using the Terraform, without locking the state files. So that is one issues I come across before we are saving that Terraform state into the backend S3 and connecting to the we are using the technique that is connected to the DynamoDB. So before that, like multiple users are using that because of that the Terraform state file is corrupted and everything is happened. So that we implemented the backend storage and will link it to the DynamoDB to log the state of the Terraform. So this is I understand.
Okay. Tell me about uh, Tell me about one of the complex Terraform modules that you have written and what were the key components in it?
Complex in the sense like I used to write from basic, so it will be there. It will be like I used to write from basic VPCs, the subnets, EC2. In that VPCs, I used to write for internet gateways, NAT gateways, Elastic IP, and EC2s, and EKS also we are implemented that.
Okay. All right. Now, just having a look at your CV again, tell me tell me about the one of the key projects that you have done, which in which you encountered major challenges, and what were they, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, key challenges like I face in Docker. When we write in a Docker file, the file is it is taking more time to create an images because of the size of the document. Because we'll come overcome this by creating the multi-stage Docker file. So distinct Docker files so that there will be in future it may any vulnerabilities attacks or anything happens to like that will be reduced by creating the multi-stage Docker file so that after that the execution of our Docker images is become faster and we reduce around the Docker file from almost 50% down like less
Mhm.
MB. That is
Okay. All right. Now, in terms of Docker, what do you understand by the word immutable infrastructure?
immutable. Immutable. So it cannot be the state cannot be changed. That is
The state cannot be changed after deployment. So, how
uh,
does Docker support the concept of immutable infrastructure?
um, not come across this.
That's all right. Tell me about the difference between a horizontal and vertical scaling. What do you
Yeah,
understand?
yeah. Vertical scaling instance, we are increasing the capacity of the instance, like an example, like instance, increasing CPU, increasing the memory and all. And for horizontal scaling, and we are increasing the virtual machines to number of machines. So that is called vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. Vertical scaling, there will be we will come across hardware is the minimal hardware, and in horizontal there is no any hardware restriction in it. And here in vertical scaling, there will be communication between inside instance is faster because the same instance is used. And in horizontal, it will be like multiple instances. Their communication and networking, the communication between them is very slower.
Okay. All right. So, I'll give you a scenario. So, your client demands that you need to set up auto scaling for EC2 instances. Okay, so that's one of the requirement where you have an application and it should auto scale based on the consumer demand.
Mhm.
Tell me about the exact steps that you would run in AWS so as to achieve auto scaling. What are the prerequisites of auto scaling, and how would you achieve that in AWS?
Prerequisite in the sense like Amazon Mesh image is required for that particular application which are running on the EC2, and there will be like a launch configuration will be there. In that we will specify the what is the percentage of the like when it was the that has to scale and it was scaled down, and what is the minimum number of instance to be running concurrently, and what is the maximum when it is achieves to run. And basically, the load balancer also they have to integrate with auto scaling so that it will send the loads to multiple whichever newly created auto scaling groups. Yeah, and so based on the threshold percentage and all, how it is going to
Yep.
design.
All right. Now, in terms of, have you heard the concept of service mesh?
I heard, but I'm not sure.
So service mesh like Istio or Linkerd addresses.
No, I heard that, but I never worked on it. No.
Okay, all right. Now, tell me about your experiences with serverless applications.
Lambda.
Yep.
Lambda, yeah. Like in our project, we are implemented Lambda like services like based on it was written by my senior. Like the Lambda that is written in the scripting in Python. So mainly, it will check the volumes, unused volumes in our this infrastructure, whichever is unused from past like almost 3 4 months or so, from 6 months, it is not used for those kind of the volumes and all the unused EC2 machines and all. We'll get an email regarding that. We'll drop an email whichever team is not used at, so that from that Lambda service architecture we use.
Okay. And what are the benefits of a serverless architecture?
Serverless architecture benefits like we cannot like we are not supposed to manage the complete server, because whenever the request comes, the server will get activated, and once what the work is assigned to that task complete after that, it will terminate the instance, and there is the cost optimization will be there. And the drawbacks of this is like it will only for 15 seconds we can run execute our script or code in that. That is the one drawback.
Okay. And what are the challenges that you face when you are deploying a serverless architecture?
Uh, Challenges, it will be like triggers and all in that. Yeah, I it's like maximum I never used this. Like I didn't employ. My seniors used to work on it. So.
That's correct. Okay. Tell me the difference between Elastic Container Service and Elastic Kubernetes Service, like ECS and EKS.
Yes, yes, and yes. Like I use Docker container.
No, no, Docker is a container. Yeah. Tell the do you know what is ECS?
Elastic container service. It's like
What is
AWS service provided like a Docker, I think, because we used in our organization as Docker, so not ECS. So EKS, yeah, that's it.
yep. So ECS is your fully managed orchestration service by AWS. You can just run your containers in there, and EKS is something which is
We like
fully managed
Kubernetes
Kubernetes
service.
service.
Yeah.
All right. Now, have you had any experience in dividing a monolithic architecture into microservices?
Oh, experience like I know the things like what exactly the or how it works. But I didn't get any opportunities to do like migration from monolithic to microservice.
Okay. Can you tell me the differences between what is a monolithic and what is a microservice?
Yeah, monolithic, all the modules are tightly packed package. Also, all the modules will be like tightly packed. In microservices, all the modules are like in the runs in the microservices single container. So it will be like if any of the one module is goes down, not complete applications goes down. But in monolithic, one like if any services or any module is goes down, complete applications goes down.
Okay.
So this is
So are there any situations where you would prefer one over the other?
Uh,
If you are to design a new application right from scratch, let's say you're designing a web application. So you've got it's a simple web application. You've got a front end layer, you've got a middle layer, and database layer.
yeah,
Would
for
you
those kind of
would
like
you prefer
monolithic
to
will prefer, yeah,
would you
monolithic. Yeah,
would you prefer monolithic in that?
yeah.
And what are the key considerations that you would think of that might change your opinion to microservices?
Yeah, it will be like simple applications like front end, back end, and database will go with monolithic. If there is more features, more pages, like more implementation, more modules coming in, that will be like in nowadays the Docker and microservices like Kubernetes is booming, so that will implement the new trend and realistic experience. Like for that, we'll use microservices. So,
Okay. All right, Sagar, I think we are coming towards the end of this interview.
mhm.
Just one last question.
Yeah.
Tell me the difference between RDS, DynamoDB, and Redshift.
Uh, RDS is the relation database. DynamoDB is like RDS is the SQL database, and DynamoDB is the MySQL database. Where in RDS the data is like maintained in a table format, but in DynamoDB there is no like sequential like manners we found the data. It will be like a key value pair. Yeah, and Redshift I never worked on.
Cool. All right. All right. Thank you, Sagar, for your time today. What I'll do is I'll just pause the recording and give you a feedback.
Sure, sure.
All right.